Shirley here with Sirius Dallas Moon Soul Hour, still Moon Day, Sun in Gemini. Meet heaven closer to Al-Qaid. So, I was talking about this sun, particularly sun is applying to square Neptune, and how in a soul-aligned relation, I began to tell the story of when I had a teacher in aromatherapy that was just buying her own apartment, her own house, and she was like, Shirley, come on, when are you going to buy your own place? Or it sparked a lot of things where I'm beginning to look at, where I live, or what is my vision for a house, and tending to really deep things, because I have a Chiron in my fourth house, which is also Chiron in a Yod, which is overwhelming. Now, this type of conversation, of course, they kind of conjure all the things that we were swiping under the rug to be dealt with. And so with this one, I feel kind of like the same feeling. Somebody's either having a leveling up or is becoming acutely aware that only what aligns with their soul is valid. And it sparks so many reactions. And now those reactions, the people that have a reaction, the people that have this, I don't know, those are the people that are actually, how should I say that? It's almost like a chemical reaction. Like their soul stagnation is being disturbed as well. Now with the point of Sagittarius, which is the opposite point to this donation, it's where, and here it's not about our excuses dissolving, it's more like everything that we were trying to keep real, in the sense that, not to go over the top. It's kind of like, if you're not going to go over the top, how are you going to get there? That is the tipping point. Um, Sun applying to square Neptune is really that ego dissolution of where, in every place where our dreams were not so aligned enough, and it's not about big or small. What seems like a small dream for one person can make a gigantic difference in the world. But what is soul aligned is within. You know, if you think about situations where, and here is also people are called to, they're called to go within and align with their souls around their big visions. Were they having big dreams that aligns with their own soul? Were they, and this is a key thing for things that are the grand missing, situations of standing in our power in a way that is actually centered and confident and healthy. Now, this is something unique about this Gemini lunation because Gemini is usually what catches up to us in the good sense when we stop trying or when. But this is the last decan of Gemini where even if all the answer we have is soul alignment, that's the core thing. It's a small thing. It's like, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? Whatever it is, it may change at different times. It needs to be aligned with my soul. It might be a different thing at different times, but it needs to be aligned with my soul. And that core choice is the thing. I think the Sun square Neptune is also going to show how only what is actually aligning with the soul is actually nourishing. Even the awareness that, how should I say that we're on our path or that we're on our way. Is already partaking in that ego dissolution. Now, more than likely with this Venus that is connected to the Sun, is ruled by the Sun, more than likely that soul alignment choice in Leo is way visible. That the almost 180, the applying opposition to Pluto, stirs up Um, that direct confrontation. Because our values, what actually aligns with our soul, are like a projector. With the opposition to Pluto, there is something that is an immediate projector. It's like, it's almost like looking into the sun. And it's about the truth of the heart of the matter. Do our values align with our soul? It's not so much about the choices that we make, such as our values. Venus can be our standards, but here is more like our values. And with Pluto, wherever Pluto is at for people, the true values or the authentic values here with Venus can really shine. And how should I say, the tendency to go egoic about that is going to create kind of like an existential rejuvenation. It can really also put the projector and really expose who is there and who's not there with us. It's kind of like, think about Venus in her glory, or in her shine, in her lively spirit, and that really exposes who is having an issue with that. Right? Because nobody should be having an issue with us making the choices that align with our soul, or picking the option that aligns with our soul. it also exposes is the whatever is coming from Pluto or from the first and middle decan of Aquarius. Okay? Does it honor us in our shine? In our confidence, when we're confident, when we're radiant, when we're shining, when we're glowy. When we're standing in our power. And if it does, then that must be something that's out of a soul alignment, regardless of the type of relation. If it is, and what's not there is bringing that ego dissolution. Let's say somebody could have claimed, somebody could have claimed that that they were there for someone, or that they were, and then suddenly they're standing in their shine, they're radiant. And there can also be an issue where, let's say somebody is bubbly and happy and so on, and somebody says, wait a second, something is missing a telos here for me, missing a trajectory. Now, that can be a projection, or that can be something true. And that can be also up to the person to say, wait a second, is this actually true to me, or is that a projection? Or does that mean that when I'm bubbly, that person interprets me as though I'm just bubbly and energetic, but don't really have a telos, don't really have, like, that energy is not really going anywhere. And this can also be an energy compatibility. Okay, it doesn't have to be an issue of, let's say, ego. Think about moon compatibility as well, but it can be an energy compatibility. Like sometimes something is not about anything other than that. And it's also about the telos. So what are we building in our life where if our energies are not super compatible, people will find it difficult to be happy together. They might rationally want both to be happy, whether together or not, but the energies will create some sort of a friction that is not necessarily egoic. And that can be both a source of misinterpretation, or alternatively it wasn't projection, and something that was bubbly but with no telos was seen as such. And it was not coming to demote anyone, but it was more connecting. Let's say if I would see a person is kind of like, oh, bubbly and so on and so forth, but it feels like their energy is kind of like going every which way. It's like looking for, is an energy that doesn't still have a telos and could be going into like meaningless conquest. So I would be like, I can see how there's a stagnation in my life where a telos is missing, and I can see why I ran into that person in that particular energetic state. But that telos, my telos and their telos might not be the same. Um, and if it's not, then they should kind of like honor that. For that, it also exposes where if people have been invested in situations where they saw the goal is justifying the means, this is something that is going to create kind of like a crisis or a collapse. And this external collapse is only pointed at a bigger alignment with the soul. It's like, where have we been compromising on that soul alignment? More about that upcoming square with Neptune. It can be a crisis where people, how should I say, there can be certain patterns where people could fall into something that is of a Neptunian nature, of this elusive nature, or kind of like codependent nature. They can have an allure or somewhat addictive nature. But there's probably going to be an almost immediate crisis that's going to dissolve if it's somebody that was, let's say, let's say if it is something that was somebody invested a significant amount of their money in, I don't know, buying chocolate that is not really chocolate. Yeah, so chocolate packages with cadmium. Okay? They can put this box of chocolates and there can be like a power cut and all these chocolates melt and it feels like icky. And they were like, okay, anyway, maybe it's good that it's not. Like, I wouldn't want to, like, and that can absolutely be the sun, the sun Neptune. Because the sun Neptune is I know it's stepping on a lot of things because that's the kind of things that you know, that triggers people. It's kind of like, oh, it's a simple example. It's not a simple example. It touches on soul alignment. They were like, oh, self-love, or no. What is self-love is in essence is being in a path that aligns with our soul. Um, um, now, this is something now with Venus applying to oppose Pluto. We could definitely be in a situation where we may have invested in something that goes completely rejuvenated. It could even be like, I remember I bought this very, all natural makeup with this company that is decentralized and so on. Then it kind of had like titanium dioxide in it. So it's kind of like either I will write something or a mail to the company, but in any case, it's kind of like probably better not use that makeup, but that particular one. And I was so happy because it smelled good, and then I was like, oh, I actually managed to put my makeup on because it smells good. Neurodivergent, I know. Um, or it can be about, it has also a visibility component. Are we actually beautiful with this relation? Because in a soul alignment, we are radiant and beautiful. And this is the kind of composition that we can run into ourselves when we are in a soul alignment. And from that very perspective, we can see, oh, do we actually need kind of like a deep transformational makeover, or was that just a stagnation that we were trying to resolve with, I don't know, changing our hair? Or we're probably going to find more authentic answers. Venus is also, where people market themselves, is also their branding or their personal brand. And this is where we can, one of the things with Pluto in Aquarius, people that weren't thinking about these topics might actually discover an unusual interest in branding themselves, in creating a personal brand. It's kind of like everybody's doing Aquarius, but and people might be exposed to kind of like the raw, authentic truth about how their values are being seen, and that usually will result with shedding those who do not, shedding the people who are in disapproval of, not from a need of approval, but from the normal the normal tendency to surround ourselves with people who appreciate who we authentically are, what our values are authentically. In places where there is, let's say, competition, because Venus is still squaring Chiron. People that are in a path that aligns with their soul. Okay, remember what I said. What aligns with our soul will never require us to be in a position where the goal justifies the means. And that can be, I'm not saying a total collapse, but it can feel that way. And it can feel that way when a person is successful. Now again, it's not a, how should I say it? It's not a doom. Pluto usually is about, it's not about staying in a crisis. It's actually about leveling up into a way that's way more authentic. And it's very likely, particularly because it happens between kind of like the world decan of Aries and that point where we are 12 o'clock from the galactic center. The galactic center sees us, we see the galactic center, we're like, okay, we're aligning with our soul. The big vision, we are aligning with the threads of that align with our soul path according to who we are. And this confronts with let's say the galactic center that has to show us the things that are soul aligned. Okay, if you know a thing about Mula, you know there's some transmutation there. It's not called the galactic center over nothing. Okay, I think the people are, yeah, that's a statement, but it's also the truth. Venus hour. kind of like, hey, the world is changing in such tremendous ways. That which aligns with the soul is actually sustaining. And is also sovereign. This is why this Sun square Pluto, this Sun square Neptune is going to have, is going to be very big. Again, it doesn't need to be big on a material substantial level, but it's going to be a big vision. At its core essence about, okay, it's a big vision, but it's the soul alignment generator of the big vision. Like, even if a person doesn't have, or the soul alignment is the generator of that vision. Okay, people will never be satisfied with what isn't. And what is not based on that perpetually undermines itself and collapses. Now, it's also the notion that this is, when we talk about alignment, when we talk about attunement, is something that is, I'm not saying transcends the ego, because it is soul-centered, which is the heart. And of course, it has the healthy aspects of the ego, which is the sense of self, and its alignment and attunement. And it's always alignment and attunement with the self. A lot of the people that have a soul Pluto issue, okay, these words might be, they might be, we might be going through a journey of authenticity where we are rediscovering that, or where we discover that. And this is going to kind of shake off, steer those that how should I say? Yeah. Another facet of Gemini is that it really is a chatterbox. It is a verbal sign. And this is where I'm getting that in many cases that is something that is going to need to be honored. And this is where, what isn't is probably going to be shaken off and dissolved from our lives. It doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to die. It just needs to kind of like allow us the space to be ourselves. Now that space with Mercury in Cancer is also a nourishing space. It's also a house. It's also, let's say, the garden, or with the Sun, it can be honoring certain authenticities. Was our values appreciated? Were our work appreciated? And properly compensated as well. If our values or if our voice was taken from us, were these patterns transformed and the proper reparations, both in our sense of self and everything that nourishes it on a soul level, material level, have been due. There can be crises, even existential ones, around us as we shine in our confidence, where that's not the case. That won't be able to be swept under the rug in relations. Okay? Venus in Leo, values soul aligned. Okay? It's not supposed to be difficult to be in environment that when we are in our soul alignment, the environment is supportive. And the environment is not supposed to challenge people being in their soul alignment. Particularly at Mula, particularly at Maga, particularly at the global level of Dana Balgadi. Again, this is Venus. If Jupiter is about choice, Venus is about we are deserving of our soul alignment to be there, to be supported, for the environment to support that. It's not supposed to be an existential crisis to get there. Both in our personal relations, but also in this economy, in the changing world, in our environment, in our kingdom. Venus Leo really accentuate a union of two suns. Not as a melting, not as an explosion, not as is two shining suns. Okay, Venus is bringing things together, and Leo is the sun. Um, and this Venus is also in the context of the sun squaring Neptune, where something is and isn't there. We're not going to be satisfied with something is not that path. And it's also not something that's dictated to us. Like, people may resonate with their own soul alignment and they can share it, they can broadcast it. We can resonate, or we can resonate in a different. But in any case, it's not something that can be, it's not something, like if somebody says something and we agree with that or we relate to that, it's because we are in our soul alignment. But prior to that, and even during that, it's independent of what another person says. Okay, and that's honoring, that's a Venus acknowledging the sun. It's us acknowledging the value of our own soul alignment, and from that perspective, seeing, do we resonate? Is something actually true to us? Does it align with the value of our own soul alignment, independently of who that person is, or of the fact that they say that? This is why when the sun exalts in Aries, it reminds us of the importance of aligning with ourselves and the know thyself that brings whatever is our own truth. And from there we can connect. From there we can see, oh, you reach it in your way, I reach it in my way. Or you're talking in your language about something that I'm also in the path of. Um, mm, this square is going to be with the sun in Cancer. And and this brings the question of nourishment of our inner light. On nourishment of our soul alignment. And again, the people that, how should I say, if it stirs cynicism in people, that's exactly what the square is about. If I think about the water grand trine, how the nourishment of Cancer is supportive of Scorpio ridding itself of its own cynicism through the scorpionic process, and supported by the grand vast of that is true and that is true of Pisces. Um, Sun in Cancer is reminded that it needs to be nourished to shine and be confident. It needs the type of care that honors the solar figures, the solar aspects in itself. Okay, it's 12 from Leo. Um, and of course, the square with Aries is we need to be nourished to be in our sense of self. We know when we say, "Oh, we're not ourselves when we're not properly fed, or when we're not properly sleeping, or when we're not properly cared for, even not as controlled." Not properly doesn't mean necessarily deprivation. It can also mean simply not, is the care and the nourishment and the sleep supporting of the shine and the confidence and the radiance? Okay, can those Cancer placements relate to that sun? Now, for a lot of people, they may run into certain truths regarding to be in that, how should I say that? For everybody to be in their soul aligned path is both supported by and supportive of that nourishment, whether it's housing or food. And the fact that it's only only when it's only aligned when it's aligned with our soul. and it only sustains when it aligns with our soul. That means the world and that is not reached, and soul alignment is also not a goal that justifies the means, in the sense that love is not abuse. We may also, you know, people might also come to terms with the fact that whenever they were taught that people want abuse or that people want something that's not actually loving, they would come to, like, either they would come to terms with that, or they would have a 9/11 collapsing on them, and metaphorically speaking, of course, when they are confronted with the truth that it was never so. That it was all an illusion or a projection or something that they told themselves, maybe even because they couldn't comprehend. Because soul alignment doesn't mean, how should I say, people can be soul aligned and be together, or soul aligned and separate from a soul aligned place. And the entire system, whether it's economy, resources, support system, has to be supportive. Otherwise, we see an economic collapse.